Hey everyone. Welcome back to my second Spaces. Yeah, look, I did a really impromptu Spaces last week. Wasn't entirely sure what to expect from it and how it would go, but it was recommended um, to me by a really good friend, Ray. So if Ray, I know you're going to be listening later. Thank you again. It was a lot of fun doing it, and I thought I think after sort of asking many of you whether I should go ahead and do it or not, um, thank you for giving me a positive response. I really do appreciate it. I think it's like I say, it's one of those things where talking about your team, that kind of thing, and just talking about FPL, it's one of those things that you end up doing with friends, family, whoever it is that you're playing FPL with. So I think in my case, I don't have many sort of like, other than the FPL community, I don't have many friends over here in Australia that are playing FPL, and so it makes it really difficult to have some of these conversations. Although I have started having some of these conversations with work colleagues, and especially those that know that I'm playing FPL, and they know that at least last season I did all right. This season so far, not so great. So yeah, the conversations sort of drifted a little bit there. Um, as I mentioned in my previous one, and if you're new, to this particular Spaces, this is supposed to be just some ramblings about what I'm thinking about my game week, my previous game weeks, and what's coming up for the next game week. And it's really there to just kind of share some thoughts and feelings about what's been going on and how the game weeks sort of affected me, or what I'm thinking about doing for my future transfers, that kind of thing. So it's not necessarily going to be heavily stats related or anything like that. There's loads of really good YouTube and Spaces and podcasts and so forth that you probably should be listening to for that kind of stuff. This is more so about just general shit that's going on, and probably things that people are thinking as well. So when I started this, it was supposed to be very much off the cuff, no preparation whatsoever. And yeah, I really appreciate anyone that's tuning in for it. So I guess, like, to just start off, like, in terms of like my game week, I had a really shit game week, and I think when I went into this particular game week, I, took the chance on captaining Salah. So I think that was probably the biggest sort of decision that I made around sort of who to captain. And everyone, there was a lot of people obviously who went Haaland who didn't have Salah, but also there was a lot of people that went Haaland who did have Salah as well. So really interesting from that point of view. And I think in my last Spaces, I mentioned that if there was an opportunity to go and captain someone else other than Haaland, then now was the time to actually do that, and probably to captain someone like Salah. So look, I don't regret that decision. It's really minor when you come to think about like what the outcome was, but obviously Salah captaincy was slightly better than the Haaland captaincy, but we're talking about like tiny amount of points. And I know at the moment, based on like how early we are in the season as well, those tiny points are significant. They make a huge difference, and I get it. However, I think the real winners were the people that had the FPL managers that had Matoma or Mbumo, and I'm really gutted that I actually didn't have either one of them. I think, like, at the start of the season, when I decided to go with Salah, it was a bit of a commitment, right? That you're probably not going to have some of the other players in your team, such as like Matoma, March, and Bumo. And so it just felt, I remember sort of thinking about this when I was doing my season, sort of the start of the season and my game week selection, that not going Matoma or Mbumo, given how high they were owned, was always going to be a bit of a risk. So yeah, a little bit of a conscious decision about that. I don't regret it too much, but look, if the Salah captaincy had paid off even more, if Salah hadn't have missed the penalty, and then sort of, he obviously would have got a couple more bonus points there. A couple of those extra points would have gone a long way. So a little bit gutted that the Salah captaincy didn't quite work out the way I hoped it would work out, but it still wasn't terrible, because the other option was, if I didn't have Salah, I probably would have captained Haaland. So I don't know, like, those of you that are listening, who did, if you went for Haaland, give me a thumbs up. because yeah, I mean that was the alternative option. If you went Salah, give me a heart, because that felt like that was the right pick, this like last game week. But look, at the end of the day, it is what it is, from that situation. So yeah, like I said, I didn't have Mbumo, or Matoma, so yeah, that really hurt me bad. But I got like 41 points. So I'm just going to like flick to my team and just have a quick rundown of like who I had. So look, like everyone else, I put Turner in goal. So I've got the Turner Pickford goalkeeper rotation, and I'm not entirely, again, it was that typical sort of, Turner's surely will be able to keep a clean sheet, which he didn't, so that was pretty shit. And I don't know what we were expecting from that, right? Like with the Turner selection, I think like it was a bit of a look. It was a really good strike from the opposition. It feels like it was such a long time ago, so I can't even remember half the games. And obviously in Australia, I don't get to watch like half the matches at the same time as they're sort of aired. So I'm watching them middle of the night if I care to sort of stay up for it, or I'm watching the highlights on Sunday morning, or Monday morning at the moment is what it seems like. So yeah, look, I don't know what we were thinking with Turner, but it seemed like a good idea. I don't know what I was thinking with Pickford either, because he got 0 points. So I actually felt a little bit better about the Turner 2-pointer. I've got Walker in my defense lineup as well, and I've got Estupinian. Look, they both came through. Estupinian obviously, sort of just turned up with those 11 points. I'm really happy with that. I feel like everyone's got Estupinian, so there's really not that much to comment on in that scenario. There's look, because everyone has him, there's very little that we can sort of gain from that selection. So yeah, it's pretty shit from that point of view. I also have Chilwell. So actually, going back to Walker, I don't know, like for those of you that sort of tuned in for the previous one, the previous spaces that I did, I mentioned that I went Walker really last minute because I found out about Stones, and it was in that same sort of time period that I found out about Stones. Totally missed the news about Gabriel, and decided to change from Stones to Walker. So I don't regret that decision. I didn't really think too hard about that, but I'm actually quite happy with how that worked out. So going Walker meant that I'm getting some of those clean sheet points. It means that I'm not getting any attacking returns, although I don't think many City defenders are getting many attacking returns at the moment anyway. So maybe it's not a big deal. But 6 points from Walker, I'll take that. That was great. Chilwell, again, like I almost went James, ended up with Chilwell. Happy with that. Should have done better. I haven't. Yeah, I'll come back to Chelsea in a mo. Especially with game week 3 selection stuff as well, and the general sort of fixtures that they have, and lineup that they've got. Lineup of fixtures that they've got coming up. It just seems like a no-brainer to sort of keep some of those Chelsea assets anyway. But I've also got Gabriel, so as I mentioned. And I'm really gutted about that, because I also had Chukwemeka in my team as well, and he somehow got that goal and got 5 points. And so if Gabriel had not come on, then I could have got those 5 points, so that would have been massive. But shit happens. It's FPL, and I'm learning in my 3rd season that when the FPL gods are against you, they are truly against you. But it seemed like everyone was in the same boat. It really did feel that way. So I think whenever I was looking at Twitter, or I was looking at like my scores and sort of just trying to work out what the average scores were for that game week, I realized that everyone was pretty much in the same boat. So I didn't feel too bad about it. But even in my mid, I've got Martinelli, Rashford, Salah, and Saka, and obviously I captained Salah, so happy with that decision. Could have been a lot better. Not ideal that it wasn't good, but how bad were Arsenal in as in not how bad were Arsenal as a team as such, playing that match? You might have actually you might have that opinion. I didn't really have that opinion as such, but having Martinelli in my team and having Saka in the team, and watching Odegaard take that penalty was actually really frustrating. So really annoyed about that. It just meant, like I went Saka and paid that extra 0.5 mil because I know Saka is on penalties, and he obviously had a really good preseason as well. So I don't think I expected Saka to be off penalties, and so that was a bit of a surprise. And then Martinelli as well, like, and to be fair, it's only game week 2, so it's not as though like we can sort of judge it too much based on just the first 2 game weeks. And obviously Martinelli and Saka did really well in game week 1, so I'm persevering, as I sort of eventually talk about my game week 3. I am persevering with the Arsenal mids for that game week, as I am with Rashford as well. So that's another player where I know there's a lot of FPL managers that have doubled up with Rashford and Bruno. Now, I obviously went down the pathway of getting Salah instead of having Bruno, and like many others who have gone 5 in their mid, you've if you have got 5 in the mid, you've also got Matoma or Mbumo as well as Rashford and Bruno. So obviously going down the Salah pathway meant that I had to get a really cheap mid, and so I've got Chukwuemeka in my mid for that 4.5. So again, gutted that those points couldn't come in off the bench, but it meant that I've only got Rashford. And look, I'm so glad that I do. I think those of you that have Bruno and Rashford, um, that, yeah, it sucks for you, because I know, like, if anyone isn't thinking about transferring one of them out, then yeah, wow, kudos to you, if you're persevering with both of them in your team. But obviously, I didn't go there. I've got Rashford, but he's also on my transfer out list, as is Martinelli, as is Gabriel. And I'll get to my forward lineup, and I've got Pedro up in front, like many of you as well. And he seems to be a bit of a problem in my team as well. Like, obviously a mince risk, and I don't think we really realize. I mean, look, we shouldn't be too gutted about it, because at the end of the day, he's a 5.5 forward, and so from a 5.5 forward, what are you really expecting, right? And so I remember sort of seeing Twitter blowing up about, oh, how is it Pedro's not getting the minutes, and everyone just getting really pissed off about it. And then obviously he got a yellow card, so when he did come on, and so look, we all ended up with 0 points in the end. So look, pretty shit from that situation, but at the end of the day, he's a 5.5. He's playing the Brighton side for the first time. They've got European matches coming up as well. They've got a great team. Look, Brighton at the end of the day do have lots of options, so there's always going to be rotation risk there anyway. And so it looks like it's a bit of a minutes risk as well. So yeah, again, so looking at my team, and my bench is really shit as well on top of that. And if I could go back to just before game week 1, I would probably have thought about a better bench for my game week 1. And unfortunately, I didn't really think about it too hard from that point of view. So, I was thinking about, yeah, I'd love to get Salah, especially for a couple of those fixtures, and to be able to captain Salah as well. Maybe that's a bit of a, I'm a Liverpool fan, so maybe that was a bit of a bias, being a Liverpool fan, that I went down the Salah pathway and captaining him as well, and sort of basically, selected my team around those moves, having Haaland, having Salah, and then sort of compromising on all those other positions as well. So look, in hindsight's a wonderful thing. I probably would have changed that, but my bench is looking pretty shit. So I've got Baldock on my bench, first bench, that I sort of wrapped up game week 2 on. I had Chukwuemeka there as well, and then Mubama. And so yeah, look, Mubama's not playing, so yeah, that was like game over right there. So I've got a lot of problems to deal with for game week 3. And honestly, I've not been able to think about game week 3 too much. So like, after watching the matches on the weekend and doing a bit of the eye test as well, I have to admit the FOMO was really, really strong, not having Matoma, not having Mbumo, not having some of these players that obviously it seems like I should have thought about the EO. It's really difficult though. Like, when you're starting off the season, you want to be a little bit differential. That's the time to be a little bit differential as well. Obviously, there are a couple of picks that you want to stay as part of the pack, and the template, or the more specifically the Twitter template, was really, really strong as well. So I get it from that point of view. So yeah, look, I guess I would have changed a bunch of things, but now I've got all of these issues in my team, and it makes it very difficult to sort of go and select I've got two free transfers, to be fair, but because I've not really had much time to think about it, so a bit of a life kind of update. This is supposed to be sort of ramblings about life and everything else that's going on. No major announcements or anything like that. It's just a little bit of boring stuff. So I'm at a conference this week, and my team has been. We ran an all-day workshop yesterday. So basically Monday, Tuesday. So in Australia, matches are still being played on Monday morning. So I only had really Monday morning to catch up on most of the matches that occurred on the weekend, and so I haven't really had the chance. I think actually there was a match on Tuesday morning as well. So I haven't really had the chance to have a look at what I want to do with my team so much. And because I've been at a conference so far, for the last couple of days, hence the very impromptu, off the cuff sort of, spaces that I've just started today. I had a tiny window of opportunity where I chose not to go to the after day one party of the conference that I'm at. But I ran an all-day workshop yesterday, and when I say all day, I was there from like 7:30 a.m. and I was there till about 8:30 p.m. And so by the time I was home, I just wanted to crash for the day. And that's going to go on right until Friday evening when we've got the after party. Now, that's going to be really dangerous as well, because the deadline over here in Australia is Saturday morning, at least where I am, Saturday morning at 3:30 a.m. And there's no way I'm waking up at sort of 3 a.m. or 2:30 a.m. for that. Although I might still be out and I might be very drunk, tipsy, or I have no idea what state I'm going to be in. So I can't really risk trying to do any transfers, at that point. So ideally, what I'd be doing is locking in my team before I go out on Friday night. So hopefully that will be fairly simple to do, because I have two free transfers. And so I've been using for the past couple of seasons now. I've been using FPL Review and their big data. I guess like prediction sort of, I can't remember the actual name of it, but yeah, look, team projections and all of that. And so I took a look at that and sort of had a look at what sort of suggestions it was making for me. So I think like what I worked out, and I was just looking at the next sort of 5 game weeks or so, for my team specifically. And actually, what I should probably also mention is that this time round, the iteration that I've done with the spaces is that I'm actually recording the spaces. So I'm doing like a video recording, and I've got like my team selection up as well on the screen. I know you can't see that as part of spaces, but I'm hoping to sort of pop that up on YouTube after, a couple of friends who sort of got in touch with me and said I should probably do that, which is very kind of you. So thank you. You know who you are. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, it's not something that I was thinking about doing, but given that it's low maintenance for me to do the space and actually pop that up onto something like YouTube, it shouldn't be too difficult to do. So I'd love to do that, and that way, you can actually see the team if you're catching it sort of later on or something. So with my team and having a look at FPL Review, so I love FPL Review. I found, not that I've tried out many others either, but I found that it was probably the most accurate when I was doing. I mean, look, at the end of the day, nothing is 100% accurate, right? So, but what I found was it was actually relatively accurate, with just kind of working out, the minutes, and obviously you can change the minutes and so forth in there as we're learning with some of the players that we've got in our teams at the moment, and the rotations and stuff like that. But the recommendation that it made to me was to get rid of Salah and bring in Bruno, and so I had a massive laugh out loud moment with that, because obviously I'm thinking about getting rid of Rashford, and it seems like all of Twitter, FPL Twitter, is trying to get rid of Bruno as well. So yeah, I had to laugh out loud for that. But it also recommended that I get rid of Chukwuemeka and bring in Mbumo, which seems like the logical transfer for me to make. And for game week 3, it's projecting 67.3 points for my team. And so, yeah, and that's with playing Pickford and but also playing Gabriel in my defence. So I'm not too sure about that. Um, look, I don't know what's going on with Gabriel. I don't know if there's any Arsenal supporters, in the chat, right now on the spaces. But do we think Gabriel is actually? It would be good to get a general consensus around. Do we think Gabriel is starting in the next game? It just seems, I don't know. It just seems really odd. I mean, give me a thumbs up if you think he's starting. It's a really weird one. Like, I was chatting to a couple of friends about this who are Arsenal supporters, and they're like, we have no idea what Arteta's doing. And someone also mentioned that, Gabriel's been linked with a Saudi team. And so it's really possible, it's, very likely that he's actually thinking about a move. And obviously, Arsenal are downplaying it. I don't know how much truth is in that. But yeah, look, it's really frustrating. But because I've got other fires in the team, I feel like I have to just keep Gabriel and just kind of move forward with that and just deal with it. But the points prediction with FPL review, it's actually suggesting that I bench Estupinian. But what I might end up doing, because the points are so close, so it's saying 4.2 points for Gabriel, and obviously it's suggesting that Gabriel's going to play 79 minutes. So I'm not too sure about that. And Estupinian's points is predicted as 4.1 point. And so from that point of view, it makes sense for me to just play Estupinian, obviously for the attacking returns, and then the minutes risk is not so much of an issue with Estupinian. So yeah, so I'll probably have Gabriel on my first bench based on that in itself. However, when I then sort of had a bit of a play around with my team again, so just ignoring the points prediction and the transfer, because at the end of the day, it's an algorithm. You're using it to kind of give you some guidance around your team, and so that's exactly what I've been using it for the past couple of seasons, and I found it very, very useful to at least sort of give me a bit of a kind of sense check on which players to try and bring into my team or what I should be thinking about, that sort of thing. But also I want to play the fixtures as well, and that's been predominantly my strategy over the last couple of seasons. And in my first season, this is when I was discovering all of these tools, and it took me towards the last third of my season, where I discovered some of these tools like FPL Review and live FPL, all of that. So yeah, look, and then last season I was using it from pretty much day one, and I'm really glad that I was, and that really helped me to sort of finish at that sort of 2.5k last season. So yeah, really appreciative that I had access to tools like this. And yeah, so if there was one tool that I was going to pay for and continue using and pick, it would be FPL Review, at the moment anyway. And I'm really enjoying using it just to get that sort of sense check. So if I play the fixtures, and I'm seeing a couple of questions coming through, and I will answer those questions in a mo as well. If I play the fixtures, right, it makes sense to bring in someone like Jackson, and Jackson's been talked about so much at the moment as well. And I've had a really crazy week, so I've not really caught up on any YouTube videos or many threads, and I really do value some of the threads that the FPL community sort of puts together. I really love, some of the work that our FPL community in Australia is doing. So big shout out to the Australian FPL community. They're such a great bunch. There's so many great podcasts, and there's so many good, sort of YouTube videos as well. And some of you are already, on the spaces. So I really do appreciate you sort of, being there and supporting me as well. But I've gone down the Jackson path a little bit just to have a look at what sort of what the points and all of that looks like, given that Chelsea has really good fixtures. Now the problem is, although Chelsea has really good fixtures, and I'm looking at the fixture difficulty rating, and obviously Chelsea's coming up as probably the players to try and own. I'm not convinced at the moment. I'm not feeling I feel bad saying that as well, because they really do have so much potential. They've been going on a spending spree, and good on them. They've got the money to spend. I'm not going to be one of those FPL managers, and that to a Liverpool supporter, where I hold any grudges with some of the spending that they've been doing, especially the ones that they've sort of grabbed off the back of some of our Liverpool's transfer sort of negotiations and all of that kind of thing. But look, they've got Luton coming up at home. They've got Forest at home, and then they've got Bournemouth away. Now, obviously, Bournemouth have been playing relatively better this season than, like what we've sort of noticed from them in the previous season. So, yeah, look, I think for those fixtures, it makes a lot of sense to bring in Chelsea players, but I'm not convinced about the Chelsea players at the moment. I think the defence is obviously looking a lot better, bar James sort of being injured. But Chilwell at the moment, I'm fairly comfortable keeping in my team, but I don't feel too comfortable about having a Jackson in the team at the moment. Although he has been looking good, but it just seems like he's a little bit like Darwin, misfiring, and it doesn't seem to be working out very well, at the moment for Jackson. Like, now, look, having said that, it's very likely that when they play at home against Luton, it is the third game week as well. So it's a third game. It's a home crowd and all of that. They may sort of put on that show, and Jackson will probably get some returns, I'm sure. And so that's what we're all counting on, and that's where from a fixtures point of view, it makes sense to go with Jackson. So if I look at my FPL review score predictions, or points predictions for that, so my draft A was suggesting 67.3 points for game week 3, and that was with Mbumo and bringing in Bruno. And so with bringing in Jackson and then my, mid option, so I'd be actually removing Salah, which is very controversial as well. A lot of people, actually, a few of my friends have been asking, oh, are you going to get rid of Salah now? The short answer is yes, I will be getting rid of Salah, mostly because they still seem a little bit out of sorts. And I rather spread the funds a little bit, which I probably, like I say, hindsight is a wonderful thing. I probably would have done that from the get-go. But look, I've decided I'm going to remove Salah from the team and probably look at bringing in, someone else. And so, if I bring in Jackson, it means I've only got one more free transfer. And so do I bring in Mbumo, which seems like the obvious pick, or do I go for like a Foden, for example? And even then, if we look at the fixtures as well, Foden, I really do like the look of, but then in my mind, I've been going a little bit back and forth on the Foden and Alvarez sort of which Man City attacker we should pick. But look, Man City have got Sheffield. They've then got Fulham at home. They've got Sheffield away, and then I think a little bit later, and that too after the European matches. So that's a bit of a break in between. It's about 2 weeks or so break in between. They play West Ham away. So it would make sense to bring in a Man City attacker. So from that point of view, I'm leaning towards Foden if I go Jackson. And so it's giving me a 63.8 points prediction for that, which is a little bit lower than what I thought. And I don't know if that's because of Foden's minutes. It's kind of predicting about 66 minutes at the moment. If I increase that, obviously that will go up a little bit. But that's still not as much as, bringing Mbumo in the team as well. However, if I look at my EV, so my effective, value over a 5-week game period, 5-game week period, it's actually a lot better again going with Mbumo and Bruno. And I'm not entirely sure why. Obviously, it thinks that Bruno's going to, come through and be amazing. Man United supporters, I'm really sorry. But yeah, he looks okay in places as well. So maybe he does come through. I'm not sure, but I'm definitely not thinking about bringing him in into my team. So I think that's definitely a no-go. And I'm deliberating. I'm already deliberating taking Rashford out. So that's where I'm at. So I then did a draft C, and so and if FPL review, yeah, I love that you can add multiple sort of drafts in there and sort of have a bit of a play around. I've not actually gone and done any other future transfers. So obviously you can go off and do future transfers for how many other game weeks you're looking at. In this case, I'm only looking at game week 3, game week 4 a little bit, and then a little bit of game week 5, but more so game week 3 and game week 4. So look, in the ideal world, I would not be taking a hit. I'll only be making 2 free transfers. And so with my 2 free transfers, I'm really tempted to just keep João Pedro and not deal with my forward line, basically. So I'll just keep Haaland up front, and I'll keep João Pedro up front. But that means I'm making 2 free transfers because I do have a terrible bench and also a lot of problems in my team. So I have to take both transfers. But then I'd be looking at bringing in Mbumo into my team and looking at bringing in Foden as well. So I'm quite happy with doing that, and yeah, at the moment, Foden is the player that I'm thinking about going for. The only other sort of midfielder that I'd had been thinking about was Madison, but as we know, Madison's still injured. I'm not sure. Like, look, by Saturday, by the weekend, it's possible that he's fine. But either way, I think I feel a little bit more confident going for a City attacker than going for a Spurs midfielder or attacker in this scenario. Although I would love to jump on the Spurs sort of bandwagon at some stage anyway. I mean, I'd probably, if Gabriel gets benched again, then I'll probably will go in future moves, maybe go Gabriel to Udogi, or a Henry even. Like Rico Henry's been looking really really good, so that's another option there as well. But if I actually go with Mbumo and go with Foden, so that's taking out Chukwuemeka and Salah from my team, that's actually giving me a points sort of total for, well, predicted points total for game week 3 at 65.4, which is higher than the draft B that I'd done, a little bit lower than draft A, which is the algorithm just kind of giving me a sense of who I should be going for. I'm actually okay with that. I'm actually okay with that because if I look at the EV over the next sort of 5 game weeks, obviously this is no other transfers, no other sort of injury problems, the ideal sort of utopian sort of world of what FPL could be. I'm getting 290.8 points over that sort of five game week period, which is fantastic. And the transfer algorithm suggesting that I go Bruno and I go Mbumo was coming up with 296. So actually that's not too bad. So at the moment, I'm thinking I'll probably go Mbumo and Foden as my transfers in, and Salah and Chukwuemeka as my transfers out, is where I'm currently sort of sitting on that. That's probably enough about like my team and what I'm thinking at the moment. It's been, like I say, I've not really had the chance to think too hard based on any other sort of content. I've not been able to consume much content during the past week or so. I don't think I'm going to have much time to consume any content either. Like I've got a little bit of this evening, but yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to watch much. I'm just looking at some of the questions that have come through on the thread. So Quinton, you're asking, do you think Brentford are overperforming with the goals? Seems like a lot of their goals have come from horrible defensively errors. Yeah, I think so. It does feel like it. They seem to be on this really interesting, lovely high. But I think that's where, you know, I know it's not a metric, but I really like the X vibes sort of metric. If I had to sort of pick a metric and sort of go with it and just go with the flow with it, it just seems like they seem to be doing all the right things at the moment. Maybe it is a bit of luck. Maybe it is just how they're all feeling as a team. I think psychologically that is a huge factor that we do need to consider, like the psychological sort of aspect of the team and how they're performing. And Bumo, which is one of the reasons why I was decided that I might go towards bringing Mbumo in my team rather than Wissa, although Wissa has been looking really really good as well and it's probably going under the radar. But I've definitely thought about bringing in Wissa into the team instead of making a second midfield transfer. So not convinced though about that, and I feel like bringing in Mbumo is more of a defensive sort of perspective as well, just because his EO is so high. So I feel like I'm just doing it for the sake of not bleeding points as well at the moment. And my rank has dropped to something like 2 mil, just over 2 mil, 2.5 mil, or something like that. Maybe that's a little bit harsh. Maybe it was a little bit less, a little bit higher than that. But it was a huge drop, and I know like a lot of managers had a huge drop, this game week. So yeah, look, I don't want to take unnecessary hits, but if I was to take one more hit, it could be to bring in, a Wissa or a Jackson. And if I do bring in Jackson, that will be mostly because, there's they've got really good fixtures, and so it would make sense to do that. But you're right, Quinton. I do feel like they're overperforming a little bit. But then if they've got really good energy, motivation, and they're feeling good and everything's going their way, you almost want to ride that as well. So I'm open to riding that if it means that I don't bleed points as well. Um, Bongo, you've asked about who are you planning to replace Gabriel with? Why is no one talking about Pedro Porro? I do like Pedro Porro. I think, like, from an attacking point of view, Porro looked really, really good, and you could see, that he's getting in the box as well, and yeah, love it. I think, like, the reason why I'm tempted not to go Porro and go Udogi, and I hope I'm saying Udogi's name right, the reason why I'm tempted to go there is because he's 4.5 mil, or I think he may have gone up in price. I'm not sure. Maybe he's 4.6 mil now. But I feel like I need to tighten up on the defense side. I decided to go for about 5 mil and above players. So in my defensive lineup. So yeah, I thought maybe I downgrade a little bit from a price point of view over there. But yeah, I think Pedro Porro is a really good pick, and probably is going under the radar as well. So it seems like there's a fair few players that are going under the radar at the moment, and Henry's one of them. But again, to the point of Quinton, are they overperforming? Yeah, maybe. I'm just looking at any other sort of questions that have come through. So Bateman, Marcus, you're asking, any thoughts about switching your keepers? I'm considering Johnston to Sanchez. Yeah, I'm definitely thinking about switching my keepers. In fact, there's a tiny part of me that has a feeling that Walker's probably going to be a bit of a minutes risk, rotation risk as well, especially with Champions League coming up as well. So yeah, I'm really tempted to, and wait for it, I might go Edison. And I've had Edison in the past, and it's not been exciting. And yeah, Edison is a little bit flaky as well. Like, just letting in those last minute goals last season has been an absolute pain, and losing those clean sheet points has been really, really painful. But I'd be tempted to go back there. I think Johnston. I thought Johnston is a good pick though, but I mean, he's done all right for anyone that's owned him for the last sort of 2 game weeks or so. Sanchez, I don't know. Like, again, I feel a little bit nervous about Chelsea at the moment, and until Chelsea starts sort of playing a little bit more as a team, at the moment it seems like there's a lot of individuals in that team, and I guess expected, right? They're such a fresh team right now, and they're so new, and they've got a new manager as well. So, maybe it's a little bit benefit of the doubt. But I personally won't be going to Sanchez just purely because it just doesn't make sense for me to go there at the moment. So I feel like it's kind of out the frying pan into the fire kind of thing. So I'd rather wait a few more game weeks before I make a goalkeeper transfer. And I don't know if this is just me being stubborn, but I'd rather not make any goalkeeper transfers until maybe my first wild card, which I don't know. Again, back of my mind, I was thinking about sort of around that sort of game week 7, 8 sort of mark. I probably should go back and look at the fixtures and have a really good suss out of when the fixtures sort of turn and swing. But I haven't had a chance to sort of check that out and take a look at that yet. But Edison came to mind mostly because it seems like the City defensive lineup seems like such a rotation risk and such a minutes risk as well. We just don't know who's sort of nailed there as well. So yeah, not sure about that. Just looking at, is it silly to entertain Foden captain over Haaland captain? No. And I think I hadn't really thought about that until you mentioned that. And I guess because I haven't made the final transfer of, like bringing in Foden into my team, but I really like the thought of that. And I don't know if that's because Haaland blanked last game week and maybe we're sort of feeling a little bit adventurous, and I don't know, we want to live on the edge again. I don't know. I definitely feel that way because I captained Salah last game week, so I do feel like I could do that actually because I'm feeling a little bit sort of gutsy to do it, but I'm not sure if that's a good shout or not. but given it how early it is in the season, yeah, what have I got to lose, right? Like I'm 2 point something mil at the moment, and it's game week 3. Yeah, I might do that. Thank you for that suggestion. I like it. Um, Thomas said that they've gone Pickford to Sanchez to trigger happy for -4. No, I don't think so. Pickford's been absolutely shit. Let's face it, right? Like he's such a pain to watch. I'm not sure if I'm enjoying watching him play at all. In fact, I'm almost sort of avoiding watching any of the goalkeepers at the moment. Like obviously, there's been a few that have been playing really well, and but I just can't entertain the idea. Yeah, not too sure there. So John asked about if you replace Gabriel with a City defender, who's your pick? Look, I've got Walker, and that was on the yeah, total sort of, let me just pick whoever I can pick, because I only had maybe 5 minutes to go before the deadline, and I knew the servers were going to crash. So I didn't pick Walker because I really, really wanted Walker, but Walker has been keeping, clean sheets. So I'm happy with that. I probably wouldn't pick a City defender. I'm not sure, actually. I'm not sure. If anyone has a response to that one, yeah, please do reply to John there. But yeah, I'm not too sure. I mean, I'm thinking about getting Edison, for God's sake. That's nuts. But yeah, again, like I'd rather have a City defender of some sorts there. Matt FPL Monitor is asking Wissa Alvarez or Jackson. Oh gosh, so I would say all three are really good picks. But if I had to pick an order, it would probably be Wissa, because he's firing at the moment and playing really, really well. And like I mentioned, Brentford has been on this really strange high, and so should we ride that out? Yep, I reckon so. And he's going under the radar. I really do like the look of Alvarez, but it just seems like Foden's getting across, like getting on the attacking play and just kind of creating chances, all of that, a little bit more than Alvarez is. Bernardo's coming back as well, so what does that mean for Alvarez and for Foden? Not sure. Minutes risk either way. Jackson purely out of the fixtures though, as well. So I guess, look, fixtures point of view, I'd probably go Jackson, Alvarez, Wissa. But if it was based on current performance, just based on 2 game weeks, and that's not really much data really to go by, I would say Wissa, Alvarez, Jackson, in that order. But maybe Alvarez is the right pick, because again, City are a little bit more reliable at the moment than Chelsea or even Brentford. Like, Brentford can lose their sort of winning streak, or the way they're playing at the moment. Yep, Quinton, Foden could have had 4 assists last week, absolutely. And I'm counting on, like, I'm really keen on bringing someone like Foden in, so I'm really counting on him sort of continuing that. But let's see. I think that's it from a question sort of point of view. That's pretty much all I wanted to share. Like, mostly, I didn't expect it to go on this long as well. I was chatting to a couple of friends about this, where I think my first spaces ended up being something like 40 something minutes as well, and I think this one's ended up being a little bit longer as well. I didn't think I could just ramble and talk about my team and the previous game week and the future game week and all of that and end up sort of talking that long. So I really do appreciate for everyone that sort of tuned in for it. I know I have been doing a lot of rambling. This is exactly what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a ramble fest. And as I mentioned, I'd love to sort of continue doing it. Thank you so much again for turning up to the very sort of short notice that I gave you all for this as well. I do appreciate it. It is being recorded. And as I mentioned, I'm trying out something really different. So I'm going to try and post this up on YouTube as well, where I've sort of taken a screen grab of the spaces, just so your names are on there and your reactions are on there as well. And I'm just going to do a quick sort of scroll down so I can see all of you that have sort of turned up to the spaces. So I really do appreciate it. So those are my transfers. That's what I'm going with. good luck to everyone. I really hope, this game week is different to last game week. I really hope we do get green arrows. And yeah, look, good luck. Let me know who you're thinking about transferring in, if you've made your transfers already. I would love to know. I don't want to take the risk of taking a hit, but I'm very, very tempted just because my team is looking pretty shit from a bench point of view. So yeah, I might go there. Who knows? Thank you again for tuning in, and yeah, I'll catch you hopefully next week again. Bye.